Are you looking for a getaway to paradise? Well, so were some eager passengers in New York, but they had to go through hell first. Earlier this week at JFK International Airport, hundreds of flyers bound for Hawaii had to wait at their gate for, hold yourself, ready for this, 33 hours. They had to wait 33 hours before they got to board that plane. The reason? Something smelled funny. A Hawaiian Airlines pilot smelled an odor related to, quote, a mechanical issue. According to reports, the very unhappy and grounded flyers were not allowed to get their luggage or exchange tickets for another day. They did get something from the airline. Brace yourself again. For their 33 hours of wait, they were handed a $12 food voucher. Do the math. That's $2.75 for cooling their heels per hour for cooling their heels at the gate. Now, as bad as that sounds, get ready for some more. On Monday in Las Vegas, a boarded Delta airplane sat on the hot tarmac for 4 hours in 111-degree temperature weather, and no air conditioning. Several people got ill from being in that scorching heat inside that plane. Paramedics had to be called, and it even got worse, if that's possible. After baking in that plane in that 111-degree temperature on the tarmac for 4 hours, the flight to Atlanta, well, that was canceled. So what is going on? U.S. Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg said the Department of Transportation is investigating the incident. Speaking of both Secretary Buttigieg and of investigations, Secretary Buttigieg is currently under his own investigation by the Inspector General at the Department of Transportation. That's for his alleged, emphasis on the word alleged, excessive use of government private jets. But lucky for Buttigieg, on Wednesday, 10 House Republicans reached across the aisle, helping Democrats to stop an amendment to a bill that would have forced Buttigieg to report his flights on taxpayer-funded jets. The final vote, 219 to 216. And yesterday, 83 Republican House lawmakers rejected another amendment. They voted against requiring airlines to reinstate pilots who were fired or left their positions because of COVID vaccine mandates. Shortly after yesterday's vote, the House overwhelmingly approved a bill to reauthorize funding for the FAA for another 5 years. That bill will address the pilot shortage and training for new hires. It will also raise pilot retirement age from 65 years old to 67. The final vote on that bill, 351 to 69. Commercial airline flight attendant Susan Davenport joins me. Good evening, Susan. And first of all, thank you to all the flight attendants. You do keep us safe. And I know that you don't turn up the heat in these planes on the tarmac for 4 hours. And you don't make us wait purposely for 33 hours at the gate. So I didn't bring you here to blame you for all those ills. But tell me, what is going on that the airline industry seems to be having so many problems for passengers?
Hey, Greta. Thanks for having me. You know, there are so many factors that come into cancellations, delays. And when you look at somebody being on the tarmac for a long time, there's a long chain of command as far as who makes the decision, when it gets turned. There's restrictions that we have, what we're allowed to do on the tarmac. Ground delays, 33 hours. I can't even tell you what would cause something like that. That's not part of my expertise, but I can tell you from a crew end, it really affects us as well. A lot of times we time out, we're not legal to fly and they have to replace us. Or if it's not that long, we sit around with the passengers and we wait as well.
Well, you flight attendants have a game face, and you're very polite when we passengers get a little edgy and out of control. So I, do tip my hat. But, it must be, I mean, you go from trying to keep a plane safe to almost having to do crowd control, something that I bet, I think is a little bit above and beyond.
Thank you. We do what we can to keep everybody happy. I think by the time they get to us and they're on the plane and we're getting going, they're just relieved to go. And then that's where our customer service takes into account what they've been through to get there. And we try to make them comfortable from then on.
I have a few tips for the pilots. You might want to give it to the pilots next time you're on a flight. Just tell us what's going on. I mean, I sat on the runway for about an hour recently, and we didn't know why. I mean, if somebody just said bad weather, mechanical problems, or FAA or ATC backup or something, I began to wonder if the pilots had gotten on board when the rest of us did.
Absolutely. They do communicate when they can, most of the time. A lot of times they're working on many things up there. It sounds like they just fly the plane, but they also work with a lot of radio communications and different directions that they get. So they have a lot to do up there. It doesn't seem like it, but they do. And it is very important. Communication needs to be a big part of that. So I can pass that along for you as well.
All right. I understand weather problems. This business is about timeout. Explain that, because people may now wonder why their flight attendants board the plane, then they wait 6 hours on the tarmac, and suddenly they don't have the flight attendants. They can't go on the plane when the plane finally goes. So explain that.
FAA regulates how long flight attendants and pilots can work. So after so many hours, anybody's going to get tired or fatigued. We're safety professionals, and the pilots, well, their job is pretty important too. They're flying the thing. We definitely don't want somebody fatigued or extremely tired flying the plane, distracted, anything like that. Flight attendants, if any emergencies happen on board, we're trained to handle those. If we're distracted, tired, off our game, we can't handle those emergencies as well as we should. So there are regulations as far as how long we can fly or how long we can wait, and our duty days, and those are our safety precautions.
Susan Davenport, flight attendant, thank you very much for joining me.
Thank you so much for having me.